morning, brothers and sisters. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. Creativity is one of the highest forms of prayer, and there is no quality standard to expression. It simply connects us to one of God's primary impulses, to create good things. Create prayer is giving God access to areas of our inner life often neglected. Being creative connects us with our essence of God's nature. Mary Kate Moll's guidebook. Yes, he wants us to be connected, and he wants us to realize how wonderful our earth is, provided that he created day and night. He wants also peace. He wants everybody to enjoy our earth and come together and learn to love one another. And in wars that is destructing our earth now. Amen. Amen. Love and peace, and please, someday to be world peace.
Thank you, Rita. Today is a special treat for me. Originally, in May, we weren't going to be able to have our monthly interview conversation. And that was a little bit of a drag for me. And not the fun kind either. So I was quite pleased when Erica and I were talking, and we realized, you know what? Erica brings a particular perspective that I think we ought to be attentive to. Now, one of my goals with these monthly conversations is that we as a community can listen to a perspective that I think we need to consider. And Erica is one of those folks who has such a perspective. Now, of course, we all have some perspective that needs to be shared, right? But what a gift for me to be able to dig in a little bit with Erica and hear from her. And I think it's going to be a treat for the rest of us, too. Now, Erica, would you come on up, please?
Yes.
And while you're coming up, there's a question I like to start these off with, and it's regarding how you would like to introduce yourself. And the reason I ask that is because there's the traditional way of how we introduce people, which tends to be how I tend to think, you know, well, so-and-so has X credentials, they did X things, and this is why we're listening to them today. But I have found that many times when folks are coming up here, they have a different way that they want to be introduced to everybody. One person, Alyssa, is like, let me talk about my connections to those who've gone before me. That's how I would like to introduce myself. You know, my friend, Bob Cummerlander, you know, he had a different way he wanted to introduce himself. So I don't want to just assume. And the other side of this is, we know you, but that doesn't mean that we know you how you would like to be known.
Okay.
So how would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, typically, there's always been a title associated with that. But so I'm Erica Martin. I am an artist by trade. I am a small business owner, a mother, a wife, a daughter, all the things, a friend, lay leader. However, yeah, I kind of try to bring all of my creativity, but like an artist by trade, but like coming into this realm, which is your community life and youth ministries leader. That's where so I'm Erica Martin, keeper of many things. So
Yes.
So
I appreciate that. We've been doing a series on new life, trying to camp out in that Easter theme. And while I was thinking about the different ways that thematically show up with our predecessors around New Life. Nikki and I were talking, and creativity, arts came up. And that's one of those things that permeates all of Scripture, which makes sense because Scripture in and of itself is art, right? Mm-hmm. We can't divest the composition of our Hebrew Bible and Greek Bible from art. And I think that's sometimes easy for us to do when it comes to things that we hold as sacred. I was watching that revered source of wisdom that I know you're all familiar with, X-Men '97, which is on Disney Plus right now. It's fantastic. And there is a character who is a part of this imperialistic society, and he's visiting this holy site, and they have this statue of these deity figures there. And this person who's like the stand-in for humanity, he goes, "It's so interesting. I thought that you guys don't believe in art. That art is a symptom of insanity in your society. And yet you have this." And the person who's a part of this imperial group says, "Well, this isn't art. This is religion."
Thank you for sharing that, Giuseppe.
It's important,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is.
By the way, I am putting a timer on for what remains of 30 minutes, just out of respect for time for everybody. So if you're somebody who is anxious that we may get out later than normal, we might, but I'm trying.
Yeah, and the coffee will still be there.
The coffee will still be there. The cookies will too. I taste tested them this morning. They're fantastic. So what kind of arts do you create? Do you have a favorite medium?
Sure. I usually create some type of visual art, although, and it's usually something like watercolor, pen and ink, acrylics, oil paints, that kind of thing. But I know that over time, over the years, and being like a mother of, now my boys are older now, but they were younger at one point, I didn't always have time to nurture that kind of thing. So I feel like I tried to bring creative components into how I did things, whether I was teaching Sunday school or being a classroom volunteer and that kind of thing. So yeah. There's always been some visual aspect to it. But those are I wrote some notes here because I have a tendency to, it just helps me organize my thoughts.
Sure.
So yeah, so more recently, taking in my surroundings, I think that's a huge piece of being inspired by, and it's not like you have a lot of time to create something. So I think taking in the surroundings, so I've dabbled in, I wouldn't call myself a photographer, but I dabbled in just that kind of visual aspect, and also some recycled mosaic art, things like that. So, yeah. But again, visual arts kind of thing. So.
Great.
Right. Yeah.
Can everybody hear Erica okay? Oh, okay. Could you take your mic and hold it?
Like this?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Is that okay,
better?
Travis?
Okay.
All right. I like that especially that you mentioned that last piece, recycled mosaic art.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what that is? I'm not seeing a lot of hands. What is recycled mosaic art?
Well, so I learned to put them on old windows, which we have a collection of them at my home. And then you put things like anything from agates to recycled glass, like broken pottery, and you can kind of mortar them into place on a glass pane. So I've made a few of those in time, and I'm planning to make some more this summer. So
nice. If you're unfamiliar with the artistic side of Erica, I've been getting increasingly familiar the longer I'm in this building, because Erica's art affects this whole building, especially in our different liturgical seasons. That just means different church seasons. We just like this word liturgical because it sounds important. So sometimes in different church seasons, you know, we may hang up some of Erica's art here or here. It may get shown on the screen. It sometimes gets printed on the bulletin. The Labyrinth was a huge piece of arts that Erica created.
Yeah.
And I know I'm just going to find more and more.
You will.
Yeah. So how was artfulness cultivated within you? Like, did you have somebody who fostered this within you or encouraged you to be artistic?
Well, I think my folks were always a little supportive that way. I recently had the opportunity to go through some kindergarten report cards, and it would say things like, Erica's very imaginative, but she needs to work on her letters and not draw pictures of bunnies and animals and deer and rabbits and all the things. So that I feel like it was noticed early on. And then when I was in grade school, I was in art tag. That was when they had more of a talented and gifted program for kids, and went through that until it was funny. The few people that were in that program also did art lessons. So I did art lessons with the woman who was our art tag director.
Yeah.
So I did that for a few years as well. So I feel like there was some good elements there, and then so I feel like my mom was always trying to find those opportunities for me since I had been identified early on as crafty and imaginative and not doing letters. So anyway.
What a gift.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned that you don't always get to create as often as you would like.
Right.
But why do you create at all?
Well, sometimes it's for my mental health. Sometimes it's for something I'm doing for another person, like I've been commissioned to do something. Sometimes it's or working in like my kids' classrooms, they would say, oh, you can draw. Would you like to do a bulletin board and help me create this wonderful magical thing? And I was like, of course.
Yeah.
You know, or helping with murals at the schools, all that stuff. So, you know, just, it wasn't my work, but I was helping, you know. So I feel like that was always a good way to channel and get the energy out. So why I create now is kind of like...
Get that energy out. I like that.
Yeah, because it's in you. And sometimes you just kind of go, God, I wish I had time, you know, when your kids are little. Now I'm like going, it's a little overwhelming because I feel like I need to center myself a little bit more and have a space. And I do have a space now, so that feels really good to be able to, yeah. Or even organizing right now is just, it's like there's that sacred in the gathering of materials and, you know, the things that you get ready to do your work. So.
Yeah. That's so strange. I've never heard anybody call out the artistic energy that seems to come out when you're organizing. Mm-hmm. And yet, I found that to be true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for naming that.
You're welcome.
I like to do this kinesthetic form of artistic creation. I take action figures, which are movable. I like to break them apart sometimes and make something new out of them. Because it's like, for me, it's special to be able to have this thing that moves around and like was something else, it's become something new. There's a lot of like disciplines that are in that. But one of the frustrating aspects is you have to like bring all of your stuff out. And so you have to know where the different parts are. And I've spent as much time organizing my stuff as I have actually doing the arts that I want to do.
Yeah. It's part of the process. And I always say, this is kind of one of my tenets in life, is like make it part of the dance, because you have to do that in order to create something.
So in our text, it speaks to how the ancient people who are writing Genesis viewed the creation accounts. And it's very much in keeping, in some ways, with how other Near Eastern communities saw creation. Now, many of us have been taught, well, it's ex nihilo, which means out of nothing. But in the book of Genesis, in this like initial creation story, all of the elements are there. God hovers over the waters of chaos. So the spirit, wind, breath of God hovers over the waters of chaos. And when God creates, God separates the chaos into life. So the light is already there, swirling in the darkness. But to make life, God pulls the light and the darkness apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. God is basically organizing.
He is. They are gathering their materials. Yeah. Or she is gathering her materials.
Yeah.
And preparing. So that's a huge piece of it.
Do any of you feel like organizationally inclined and you need some of this permission to be like, yeah, organizing's a good thing? Organizing can be spiritual, even. Raise your hand if you're like, you resonate with
look
that.
at all those hands. Look at all those hands.
Yeah. I feel like this is something my mom needs to hear. She doesn't do art very much, as I would think of it, but she organizes.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I want to transition a little bit into how you show up, how art and creativity shows up in your ministry.
Okay.
So you often involve our teens and our kids in creative processes. And in my mind, that's your primary way of working with our youth and kids. And I think for many of us may know that in this room, but we may not know why. Like, why don't you just follow a traditional curriculum, you know?
Understood. Well, and I do try to involve intergenerationally, like with the salmon. There was, some grandparents that brought their kiddos and things like that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are great things. I think for children and our young people to have a safe space to come, and sometimes they're unchurched. They don't, and visitors too. Visitors will come and want to have their children in Sunday school. And I'm pretty upfront with folks that I'm not going to there's no memorization of scriptures and things like that. It's just, I think COVID gave us a time to kind of regroup and reflect on how we want to be with people. And I think there was a lot of that deconstruction work that folks were doing. And so there's a lot of trauma that was caused by church. And so when people try to come back, it wasn't something that was, there are elements that I can bring to that without it being scriptural right now, because I can ask kids, what's nice is if we can do the body prayer, that's my low-hanging fruit, and we'll have to bring that back at some point so you can all know what that is. But it's the way of just kind of entering that space of being safe and creative. And sometimes when I wheel that big old rusty cart in, they kind of go, oh, wow, look at all those, look at that, oh, cool, Or if we go outside, that's they want to go out and look for bugs and berries and all the things. So that's kind of exciting. We had bunnies in our front courtyard bed, so that was kind of a nice way to bring the nature. Yeah. So I would say that ecology, creation, and art are easy ways to connect with a young person. And they can feel safe and they can talk about what they do to nurture that in themselves. It's also why I do the conservation work with partners and take our youth out to trap turtles and check them out, make sure they're growing healthy in their habitat. So so there's some, I think I wish that I could bring that experience to Sunday school, but I can't always do that. But so I do that with the bigger kids. So yeah.
Right. Well, and you invite them to be able to come to these things.
Right.
So the image I get for this, and let me know if I'm off the mark here. It reminds me of when my grandma, who was a Sunday school teacher, would take my sister and my brothers and she lived up in Castle Rock, and we would walk along the Toutle River and just talk with Grandma. Grandma, we heard about Mount St. Helens. What do you know about Mount St. Helens? Well, I was there when it blew up. you know, and she would do her own meaning making around Mount St. Helens that invited us to do our own meaning making about it. Do you see this rock? This is pumice. Pumice floats on the water. What? You know, and there's something about this in my kid brain that would just be like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
This earth is amazing. God is amazing.
Yeah.
We'd go to Castle, the rock that Castle Rock is named after, and she'd be talking to us about the flowers and you know, some of the little creatures we would see and some of the naughty things my dad would do, you know. And we get to do some meaning making from that. So we should not steal lemons. Got it. Probably not good to throw the family dog into the Tootle River. Got it.
Naughty things. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, and I had that a little bit again with my folks, just we had a place at the beach in Rockaway Beach for a number of years, and that was a really great place to grow up and like look on the beach. And also over the years to see how stuff changed from more trash and plastic being washed up onto the beach or that kind of thing. So, I mean, those are things that have always really impacted me, and I think that impacts people today, young people, because that's the world that they live in. And trying to help them navigate what that looks like and how to care for themselves and care for others and care for the planet.
So you're capturing something else I think is important. So many of the concerns that our young people have, I always feel ancient when I say young people. I prefer to say kids or children and teens. But anyway, young people. I am getting pretty close to 40, so I should just claim it now. I'm already doing the dad jokes, so yeah. But the concerns that so many of our young people have is regarding the future. And it's not the same kind of concerns that I had, at least not all on my own, growing up. And it's not everything that my mom and dad worried about, you know, but it's related. And that is, what kind of world am I inheriting? And I'm anxious about the state of things. And where is the divine when the world feels so precarious and I feel out of control? You know, what kind of difference can I make? Right?
Yeah, totally. One of the questions I asked a couple ways, I believe that Earth Day is every day, so like that's just one of the things that we talk about, but when we talked specifically last Sunday, on Earth Sunday, about what would be a superpower you would have, you know, if you could help the planet, how would you? And I loved that Elliot, Sharon's grandson, wanted to like just suck up all the trash and suck up all the plastic and suck up all the things. And I was like, that's an amazing superpower skill. So I would love to help him manifest that somehow.
Yeah.
And I think too that like my kids grew up in this church, but they don't necessarily attend. I think there was things that they took away from their experiences here, but one of them is community. So that's a huge piece.
Yeah.
So, helping have a safe space for children to like talk about whatever they want to talk about, really.
So how does art and creativity and this work that you do with them, how does that connect to community?
Well, I think that there's always been a communal aspect to creating for me, whether it's been art night with friends. I hosted a painting your pet thing here for my birthday fundraiser for the youth before COVID. I think, you know, I know that other people do it in ways of like quilting and sewing together and things like that. So it's a way to also connect, I think, to the old ways and being in community together. And so with the kids, it's like we talk a little bit about like, you know, what do you know about X, Y, and Z? And then it's just like these organic conversations, and it helps with the people who are the children that need to have to be doing something with their hands, the kinesthetic thing, while they're talking to me, or sometimes they're just under the table and chilling out, and they can talk to me from under there, and that's fine too. So
one of my values when it comes to like our church life together, and you've heard me say this before, is that we are represented in our worship together. You know, it's important to me that our music not just be the music that Giuseppe would choose, but music that feels representative of everybody else in this room too. So sometimes we have guitar friends, right? Sometimes Nikki is playing a special piece for us. And sometimes worship looks like listening to a song from Willy Wonka, you know? I will always remember my first Sunday here and the piece of music that Nikki played. I can tell that we are going to be friends, which I first heard in Napoleon Dynamite. And along with that, one of the things that I've not often spoken to is that when we're worshiping together and we feel like we're connected to one another, like we're in community with one another and in community with God, we feel loved and supported. And I think that's an unspoken piece as to why so many communities, when the worship style changes, feel upset. It's not just about the music. It's because they feel connected and loved and singing it, even if they don't necessarily agree with all of the lyrics, you know? And I think what we have here when it comes to our children, this is one of the things that I appreciate so much about you. I had this realization that Brio, I realized this when he was 2. And if you're doing the math, that was during the beginning of COVID. When Brio and I don't play together, he is dysregulated and upset. And this has been true since he was 2. Well, why is that? Well, because play is more than just entertainment. It's how he knows he's loved.
Yeah.
And my hope for every single one of the kids who comes in here is that they know they're loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I try to do that with, I'm not their parent, but I'm a caring adult who's here, and we have caring teens back there, and they're all making hot cocoa right now and probably making something rad out of the art cart. So
Yeah. So we are doing great on time. I have more questions I want to ask, but I recognize this is a rare opportunity that we have because you are not just like doing community life as you work here, you know, all throughout the week, but you're doing community life over there.
yes.
With our youth and kids every Sunday. So we don't often get a chance to ask you questions.
No.
So we have a free-floating mic. Steve, would you mind passing the mic around? And church, I want you to dig deep and think about questions that you may have for Erica. Is there anything off the limits? Off the limits. That's not how
No,
people
it's
speak.
fine.
Anything off limits?
It's fine.
Okay.
I don't. Put it right up on there. Oh, hang on.
Oh, Travis is working on it.
That's okay. I have a really loud voice.
I know.
No. Go ahead and use the mic. By the way, for the people at home, we've heard your feedback, and we're trying some new mic stuff.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you. Erica, you've been a joy to watch since I've started with this church. I just wanted to know what made you realize that you could create and become more of an artist.
Mm.
What made me realize, huh? Well, I think, I think that it's interesting that you say that. Okay, so let me see how I'm going to try to get this in organized thought. I think that, like, as I've gotten older, just seeing that, like, art can be different things. Being creative can be different things. Maybe I'm not classically trained. I did go to college, but I graduated with a degree in natural resources, so that's not exactly. But I had the best PowerPoint presentations and the best maps. I got a lot of feedback on those kind of awesome art. Oh, they're so beautiful. I was like, thank you. But maybe you couldn't tell where you were going on that map, but it looked beautiful. So I think that just kind of just saying, like, you know what? when I started my small business, I just was like, I am gonna put my art on some sweet, reusable tea towels, and I'm gonna do it. Pull the trigger. So I feel like that's where I. And then a few people were like, "Oh, I'd love for you to paint me a mural. Oh, I'd love for you to do this design for my amphibian and aquatic brochure." So those kind of things, or doing a logo for somebody. Those are all. So I feel like just kind of okay. Now I'm legit. I feel, no, I don't know if I'm legit, but that's how it feels. So really that's just been since COVID, or maybe a little bit before COVID, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions?
That's okay.
Everybody knows everything they need to know about
Yeah, it's all
Erica.
right.
Rita has a question. Would you like to speak into that? Thank you.
Boy, I sure love and appreciate Erica, what she does for our church, the children, and other things she does. She's got an art of love, and I love when I be able to talk to her, suggest something to be helpful for the homeless or any issue. I always ask her, if you need help, you ask me or anybody if she needs help. If she needs help, ask me or anybody. Because of course, all of you have contributed to the church in some way, and we love all of you for contributing to our church and helping us out. Sharon helping us out to get us together for this, for the refugees that come over here about ready to get kicked out of their place. And we want to be with those people, anybody that needs help. We want to be there for them, to let them know our spirit and love is with them, and encouragement and hope. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Rita.
Rita.
That's very kind.
So Erica, I just love your ferns. And they're just not simple ferns. They have little animals in them and other plants, and you could just meditate on them. And so I also know that you take teens on outings out into the lovely areas around this greater beautiful area. Can you have an outing for us adults?
I'll work on that. It's a little hard just because I think, but yeah, I do try to make some of our events more intergenerational. I will let you know. I don't always have kids during the week, and that might be when you're available. And weekends are like, dances, or now we're getting into prom and graduation and all the things, and spring plays and sports and all the things. So it's a little hard but I will work on that. I promise you.
We go out and have fun with you.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right behind you, Steve.
This is more a question about your art. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I want to make sure I heard it correctly. You do like repurposing?
I do some visual arts, and I do some repurposing of things, yeah.
What inspired you to do that? I use old redwood boards from fences that people throw away, and I make birdhouses, bird feeders.
I think that I have some old windows at my house, so that's what inspired me originally. But then also, one of the things that we made for Dawn as his going away gift for the kids was we made a fused glass project. And I thought, we had this old window, and the kids made this fused glass. Now, fused glass is different than like mosaic tiles or broken pottery, things like that. But I thought, well, that's a good way to reuse an old window, make this sweet design in there. And again, it's part of the gathering and the process, because you have to make the pieces kind of fit in the window frame. So I kind of like that piece about it. So yeah, you bet.
Erica, repurposing mosaic, is that what I heard earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, is that like, I broke my great-grandmother's big fruit thing, and I was just gonna throw it out. But then I actually thought that, you know, someone who makes tile things, if they could use that, then it would mean something to me, not to anyone else. And is that like,
Sure, we could talk. We could certainly
Okay.
talk. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to take all this time just to ask her this,
No,
but I thought,
let's.
Hey, no,
Yeah.
that's right on topic.
but
Yeah.
I'll say this. Yeah, Eric and Clay, I mean, I really find you guys to be so awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, church, are all hearts clear? This is your last chance. I don't know when you'll ever get to talk to Erica about these things again. I'm so grateful I get to work with you. And I've said this before in recent weeks. Maybe I'm just feeling sentimental lately. But we have such incredible talent on our staff, especially given the size that we are. And I am so grateful that I get to do community with you and that my kids also get to do community with you. And, you know, are they going to grow up thinking of Jesus exactly the same way that I do? Well, that was never going to be a given with a set curriculum anyway, right? But they will come out knowing that you love them, this church loves them, and through that, I hope, however they think of Jesus and however they think of God, that Jesus and the divine amongst them also loves them.
I thank you, Giuseppe, for all those things, and I've enjoyed getting to know your kiddos too. So it's been great.
They're a hoot. Brio's dressed like Stitch right now, and he even has like the wild,
Yeah, he was really excited
where
about
the wild things are hair right
Yes,
now. You know.
yes.
All right. We don't normally give applause for speakers, but can we give it up for Erica?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
All right, thank you, Giuseppe.